Namaskar. A 5-crew submersible that had gone to survey the wreckage of the Titanic has now gone missing, and it has been close to 48 hours. The submersible, which was surveying the wreckage of the Titanic in the Atlantic Ocean just southeast of Newfoundland and Labrador, the Canadian province, has now been missing, and an international search and rescue operation has been launched. In this video, we will survey and understand the basics and the facts of the matter, and we'll also seek to understand what could be the possible challenges insofar as the search and rescue of this particular submarine or submersible is concerned. Hello and welcome. You are with StudyIQ IAS, and I am Bhuvan Apurvajha. And straight away, to jump into the topic, first up, let's understand where exactly is this submersible missing and what is it exactly made of. Good morning. Good evening, in fact, Bulbul. Good evening. So, just to look, in fact, the facts of the case. Well, it's gone missing 700 kilometers south of the Newfoundland and Labrador province, the Canadian province, in fact. Okay. And it was accompanied, this particular submersible, it was accompanied by its support ship. Okay. The support ship, the Canadian research icebreaker Polar Prince, and what essentially was supposed to be a quick mission, a go in and go out. Well, what happens essentially is that they lose communication close to 110 minutes into the mission. Now, the sub, what we know, has the maximum supply of 96 hours of emergency oxygen with it. Bear in mind that 5 individuals are inside this particular submersible, sitting cross-legged. Okay. Again, it's not a very modern design, although it might look to be such. Well, it essentially has got the most basics of design. People are going to be sitting cross-legged inside. Okay. And this 5-person crew includes what the website of this particular company that operates this particular mission. Now, they are called as mission specialists. However, you and I can probably understand them better as tourists. They are there to explore. So now, once we have understood that this particular looking machine was going inside, deep diving into the Atlantic Ocean, and this is where this particular mission was supposed to be going, just southeast of the Canadian province of Newfoundland, which was obviously being accompanied by its support ship. Now you have the Joint Command Center in Nova Scotia and Boston, who have all sent relief and rescue efforts to make sure that these individuals can be found. However, once again, there is no trace of it yet. All fingers are crossed. And we'll just seek to understand what are the facts of the case and what could be the possible challenges as we, again, it's a time basis scenario. You are looking at a 96 hours maximum of oxygen supply, which means time is of the essence. And so this relief and rescue mission is a race against time. So we will seek to understand the challenges of not just the time aspect, but also what could be the challenges insofar as launching a relief and rescue mission and a search and rescue mission deep inside the Atlantic Ocean is concerned. All right. So let's go forward now and have a look at the scope of the mission, in fact. So why were they exactly there? Why was this particular submersible, okay, the Titanic survey expedition by Ocean Gate, okay, why was it there in the first place? Now, what it says is that it is there to measure the rate of decay of the Titanic shipwreck. Titanic, which sunk unfortunately close to 100 years ago. So that shipwreck is essentially lodged at the seabed of the Atlantic Ocean. And this company, this particular organization, would launch an annual survey, send their particular submersible to just look at the shipwreck and measure the rate of decay, because again, deep inside the ocean, you have various bacteria that are eating in to the shipwreck. The whole nature of the shipwreck that had been originally lodged now stands changed because of the action of nature on it. And so this particular mission was there to chronicle that rate of decay. So what they say is that they supplement the work done on previous scientific expeditions to capture data and images for scientific study of this particular site, the exact site where the Titanic had sunk. They also document the condition of the wreck. They look at photographs, videos, all of this brought back to the surface of the earth, analyzed so as to understand the effects of the ocean on the shipwreck. And they also document the flora and fauna. Well, this is obviously the scientific part of this whole expedition, this mission. Bear in mind that the mission specialists that I had told you about, the tourists, well, they also pay a substantial amount to be a part of this mission, to go and have a first-hand experience at looking at the shipwreck of the Titanic. So now with this understood that this is why this particular mission was being undertaken, well, first away we have to understand one thing that we need to be aware of is the Convention on the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage. Now this is again a convention that has been furthered by the UNESCO, and it essentially looks at conserving and preserving all of those shipwrecks or all of that material that lies underwater as a result of some tragedy. Well, it not be salvaged. It should not be taken out from the sea, and because if it is done so, if you take out that particular salvage operation from the sea, if you take out the shipwreck or the treasures or whatever is there inside the sea, you are essentially changing the nature of the particular entity, which is why this convention was thought of by UNESCO, and it intends to protect all traces of human existence having a cultural, historical or archaeological character which have been underwater for over 100 years. So this particular convention again works in tandem with the other definitions and the other laws of the sea, the UNCLOS and all of that. And this is essentially to prepare, to make sure that you preserve whatever is there inside, that anthropological intervention does not say vilify the sanctity of that particular entity. Okay, so this covers shipwrecks, sunken cities, treasures, sacred burial sites. All of them again cannot be salvaged, may not be salvaged, in fact, should not be taken out from the water, should not be taken out from the seabed and put on land. Let it remain there is what the UNESCO is asking us to do. It also furthers that in situ conservation, like I told you, you do not want to extract it from the sea, the ocean floor. Whatever has gone, whatever has been lost, let it stay there. Let's in fact work ahead to preserve it in its particular area, in its particular environment. So UNESCO also speaking for the in situ conservation rather than going ahead and launching salvage operations. Now that we have understood the Convention on the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage, well, coming back to this expedition now that was launched by OceanGate. Okay, so the OceanGate the expedition, now what they have essentially planned is 18 dives were planned, and you're looking at a depth of 3,800 meters, which is essentially close to 13,000 feet. That's a lot of depth that they're going at. Okay, bear in mind that at particular depth, at that depth, the whole weight of the ocean is acting on you. The force per particular area is so immense that you need a specific type of material that should be used to build your particular submarine or submersible so that it does not disintegrate or crumble under that pressure, right? So what you're looking at essentially is a pressure of 4536 pounds per square inch, which essentially translates to a weight of 110 cars pressing on an area of a postage stamp. Imagine the pressure acting at that particular depth. That's our first challenge. The pressure at that depth is so immense that any rescue operation at that depth is going to require a lot of expertise, a lot of material. And given that you are fighting a race against time, you have 96 hours of oxygen supply that is there, getting all of these high-tech equipments at the site of this accident or the particular area where it has gone missing, well, that is also going to be a huge challenge, right? So once we have understood that yes, the ocean depth is such that, well, it's going to complicate matters for us, let's identify the individuals who were aboard this particular missing submersible. So you're looking at the people who have been identified and confirmed by various newspaper reports. Hamish Harding, a 58-year-old British businessman, someone again who is a tourist who was there as a mission specialist. He has also been in the space. He has been a part of this mission previously. So again, he's someone who enjoys exploring, and he was a part of this mission. He is in fact a part of this mission. You're also looking at the father-son duo of Shehzada Dawood and Suleiman Dawood. the French explorer Paul-Henri Nargaud, and the Stockton Rush, the chief executive officer of this particular company that runs this expedition. All of these 5 individuals aboard this submersible that has now gone missing for close to 48 hours. So once we go ahead, let's look at the rescue options and scenarios that so arise right now. So first, what could have gone wrong is important for us to identify. So if it was a communication failure, which means if you're looking at that the communication was lost between the particular submersible and its support ship, in that case, you are essentially trying to find a needle in a haystack. Now there are 2 options. One, that eventually the submersible surfaced and is bobbling somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean waiting to be found. Or number 2, that something has gone wrong inside the ocean and it is probably somewhere in the ocean area. Both of these complicate matters for the search and rescue operations. Second option that we are looking at is the release of drop weight, which is essentially that the particular submersible released its weight, came up to the surface, and once again is nowhere to be found. Because it does not have an exclusive, say, GPS, which does not work in the sea, in fact. Right? So again, finding this particular small submersible in a huge area is a challenge if it has surfaced to the surface of the sea. If it has not so far, well, it's a bigger challenge because you do not have visual contact in that case. Once again, the other option that you're looking at is if there was a compromise on the structural integrity of the particular submersible, given that there is a huge amount of pressure that acts on the particular submersible at that particular depth. So, if that has been the case, well, you are looking at a massive complication that arises straight away, given that there are 5 individuals inside that submersible. Also, the possibility of the vessel fouling, which is essentially getting entangled in the shipwreck of the Titanic somewhere, unable to free itself from the shipwreck, and thus is unable to resurface and has lost communication contact with its parent ship, with its support ship. And finally, we have to consider whether the vessel has indeed gone ahead, lost control, and is lodged at the seabed at, well, bear in mind that you're looking at a depth of 13,800 feet. At that particular depth, to have a particular search and rescue operation of this magnitude is going to be extremely challenging. Given that the current military technology that is available, the US government has the CURV, the remote controlled operating vehicle, which is the only one that could possibly reach at that particular depth. However, the problem is the time consideration. Given that oxygen is in limited supply, all of this will be required to delivered very fast at that particular search area. The particular submersible be identified first, and then only can you probably apply this and then probably launch a rescue mission. However, the problem so arises that you are fighting a race against time, as well as you do not know the location of the submersible. So going forward, well, there have been various reports saying that, well, was indeed the submersible safe? Was it designed in a scientific manner? These are questions that are being raised now that there is an extensive relook at the history of this particular organization, OceanGate. So, for one example that straight away caught my eye was that tourists had to sign a waiver that described the submersible as an experimental vessel, so that the company is not liable for any damages or injury or anything that arises, any adverse consequences that arises out of this mission. This particular term, that it is an experimental vessel, is a vague term that essentially says it has not passed any particular laws, it has not been made in tandem with particular standards or laws. That it is in fact indeed an experimental project with 5 souls in it. Reports have also suggested that the entire submersible was being controlled using a video game controller. That again, there is only one button in the whole submersible, and that is the only option that they have. There is no way that they can safely navigate back to the parent ship, because again there is no communication there. So was indeed this a doomed mission from the very start? Also unclear whether the vessel has an acoustic device called pinger. Most of these submarines have this acoustic device, which again is used to, say, reflect the rays back and catch the position, the coordinates of the particular submarine. Again, unclear whether this particular Ocean Gate submarine had this particular pinger which emits sounds that can be detected underwater by rescuers. None of this is known, which further complicates the search and rescue of this particular mission. Bear in mind, 5 individuals are in it, okay, and all of them, again, an international search and rescue operation has been launched. USA has sent its own men and material. Canada has launched its own search and rescue operations. However, at this very moment, as of 9:15 IST in India, there are no particular updates to offer in terms of the location or the fate of this missing submarine. Alright, so with that we come to the end of this particular short video on the submarine that has gone missing in search of the Titanic in the Atlantic Ocean. What could be the challenges in terms of its search and rescue? Who are the individuals who are aboard this unfortunate submarine, submersible? And so we will keep an eye out for this and let you know of any further developments. However, if you enjoyed this particular session, if you enjoyed this particular video, if it was informative for you, please consider subscribing to StudyIQ IAS English, as well as joining my official Telegram channel where I share all the information that a student of current affairs needs. On that note, it's a wrap. Thanks for watching. Good night.